After connecting the wire cage with the lid using a mixture of super glue plus baking soda and wrapping some very thin electric wire around it to create details on the bottom part of the model, I carry on gluing the first bit on top of the lid. This first bit comes from an old 3-pin telephone plug I had laying around for ages. I move on adding details, and this time is the turn of a plastic band seal of the bag-in-box wine package. To make the engine reactor, I slightly modify a bit from an old helicopter model kit. I glue a zip tie onto the top of the cockpit. On top of this, I will later position the frontal cannon. I then go back to add details to the main body of the little spacecraft, which I still find pretty dull. These bits here come from the lid of the Tetra Pak packaging. Never underestimate Tetra Pak packaging. In every cup, besides the cap, you can find other 3 interesting bits. Pretty good deal. I have to make it real flat on the inside, removing these bumps, so it'll stick better to the body of the droid. I got pretty carried away off camera while waiting for the battery to fully charge. I couldn't stop myself and added quite a few little extra details here and there, like the fins on the engine reactor and a couple of small engines on both sides that function as stabilizers, I guess. Let's now move on to the frontal cannon, which I made modifying a power connector ravaged from an old TV set. I will attach it to the cockpit, modifying a piece of this squared plastic tube. This cannon looks pretty threatening actually. It'll make a big contrast with the vintage cute look of the rest of the spaceship. I also decided to mount an automatic cannon on the bottom of the spaceship, not really different to those that combat helicopters have. To make it, I used part of a lighter into which I inserted 2 pins coming from the inside of one of those old VHS tapes after slightly reducing their diameter. Now they fit perfectly. Kind of. Later on, with thin plastic from a yogurt pot, I covered it up and made some details on both sides. This ain't no droid, it's a combat unit. There must be someone who pilots it, so I found this couple of very bold pilots that come from a model kit of an aircraft I had laying around. And they fit perfectly into the cockpit. One last decoration on the frontal cannon and I'm ready to glue it in place, using a glue other than super glue to avoid a potential frosting effect on the cockpit windshield. And that's it. So this is how I painted Combatto, the fully armored combat unit. The idea here was to give this little spacecraft a vintage look, not only regarding its shape, but also the way it was colored. I hope I succeeded. I only use acrylic colors for this model. After priming the model with a grey coating from Tamiya, I use silver paint to cover the metal parts of the spacecraft. In order to achieve a nice contrast with the silver, I use black for the bottom of the craft, and for some other little details here and there too. To cover other parts like the stabilizers on the sides, I use a much darker silver paint. Since I used a grey primer, I try to cover with the white paint all the parts of the ship I will later paint with yellow, red and blue. I hope this will help to make them pop more easily. While waiting for the white paint to dry, I washed the metal parts with Nuln oil shade from Games Workshop. Very nice. And then I laid the 3 primary colors. Red for parts of the main body, yellow for the fins of the engine reactor and some other details on the windshield, and blue for the main body of the engine reactor. I then washed most of the model with this Corax earth shade to try to accomplish a visually nice effect. And after dry brushing all the metal parts with light silver, here is the final result. Well, I really had a great time working at this project. If next time you uncork a bottle of sparkling wine, champagne, prosecco and so on, you will look at the cork wire cage from a new, different perspective, I then have already won. Thanks for watching and have a good one. Bye!